Welcome to Soft Talk. Today we have spokesperson for the Rastriya Prajatantra Party, Sagun Sundar Lawoti, as our guest. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
I was going through the headlines in our newspapers and online mediums. What struck me was a ruling party hitting the streets to flex its muscles, to show its strength. What do you make of this show of strength? What's your reading?
First of all, though it has been stated that claimed that Nepal entered into a new era of democracy, particular after the ouster of monarchy in the country. They even coined a new term from Nepali, if you refer to the word, from Prajatantra to Loktantra.
Mhm.
If you translate that into English, actually, there's no alternate word. Democracy is democracy after all. But the general message to the people was that uh, we have a very thriving and very meaningful democracy. We have entered into the new era. That's what that was a claim staked by the leaders of change, who ushered in a new era of political system in the country. But again, if you refer to this worldwide accepted norm of how you measure democracy in each country or in each society across the world, there's this uh, annual measurement of democracy, which is called democracy index. If you go by that, Nepal is not considered a democracy. Like there are four parameters, four categories of how you measure democracy, in a country, in a given country. Say the best democratic, thriving democracies are considered to be full democracies. Then there's second criteria, which is called flawed, and Nepal comes into the third category, which is hybrid democracy. And there's the fourth and the last category, which is considered to be authoritarian regimes. So when they measure these democratic systems across the world, they look into a couple of factors, such as how the electoral system work, uh, whether there's how does the government function, the extent of political participation, the extent of political culture, and given extent of civil liberties in the country. And when you go into this, as I mentioned, Nepal falls into hybrid category of democracy, the term used for that. So within that, uh, why these there are 34 countries which fall under this hybrid system of democracy, categorized in democracy, and they in a country like ours, we have this electoral system which is not very free and fair. There are frauds that prevents free and fair functioning of democracy. There's a political pressure on the opposition from the government. There's a non-independent judiciary. There's widespread corruption. There's a harassment and pressure on the media. Things like that. And the functioning of the what do you say? The practice of rule of law is pretty weak. In this kind of societies or systems. So these are the inherent weaknesses and flaws in Nepal's democracy. So we are not considered to be a democracy if you go by the measurement of democracy index, which is reviewed everywhere and accepted across the world. So to begin with, ours is not a democracy, but we've been given a raw deal. We've been actually hoodwinked to make us believe that we are very thriving and very meaningful democracy, which is not. And that's the uh, telltale example where the governing prime minister, governing the party in the government, and the prime minister himself was out in the street to show strength actually protest, stage a protest, which is very absurd in a democracy. And like this actually proves that our system, our leaders, our government is have no direction, is lost his way, and it's a very sorry state that we saw what happened in Darbarwag last few days back, and that's another proof that we are heading nowhere, and our democracy is heading nowhere. We are lost our way.
Mhm. At least physically, in terms of strength in the parliament, the CPN-UML is pretty strong. But what moved this party? What pushed this party onto the streets of Kathmandu uh, on the weekend? What are the factors that pushed that uh, party onto the streets? What's your reading?
Like I said,
It's on the
the
defense.
government, the party, sorry.
Is it on the defensive for some reason or the other?
uh, it's a lost cause, our prime minister, our government, the CPN-UML being a part of the government. Our
Mm-hmm.
government is lost its way. It has no direction. It's a rudderless ship that is, the prime minister is steering.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know where he's trying to take the country towards. The present coalition came into power. At least we heard in the media publicly that one of the things, the reason behind, the rationale behind the coming of becoming of this coalition between the first uh, party and the second largest party, that they claim was amendment of the constitution, and
Mm-hmm.
another was good governance, delivery of good governance, and they have failed miserably in all those quarters, all those fronts, and they have nothing else. uh, our prime minister is like acting like a child who is fighting for marbles. We hear home and neighborhood. So the other Durga Prasad, there's another
Mm-hmm.
grouping. We are known, and actually they were actually planning a demonstration, and they did also. So actually, the government in power, the prime
Mm-hmm.
minister actually was as a parent was competing against Durga Prasad, which is very absurd. Whereas the government should actually provide people and groups, to express their views, even resentment for that matter, if it's a democracy. But our government, our prime minister was out in the street, competing and obstructing everyday functioning movement of the people, and basically obstructing democracy, if you could see that.
Mm-hmm. It seems the central government has rivals all around. Sometimes it finds a rival in a mayor, that kind of thing. Then comes Durga Prasad and all those people. It's pretty much insecure. The government seems pretty much insecure, though it has a comfortable majority in the parliament.
And like I said, our prime minister, the government has lost its way.
Mhm.
It's a rudderless ship that is, he doesn't know where he's going, what he's trying to gain for the country and the people. And if you ask me, I remember an incident where the established doctor, physician, Dr. Sundar Dixit had once stated that long back. It starts on the premise that health of the prime minister, chief executive, is
Mhm.
concerns. He's a person who's holding public office, so the health of a prime minister is concerns of the all the people and the nation, right? So,
Yeah.
given that premise, what he had stated long a couple of years back, given his history of being a kidney patient, transplant, history of kidney transplant, our prime minister, Dr. Sundamani Disida stated that, I still remember the interview. We had stated like a patient who's gone through a person who's gone through transplant of kidney, has to take a regular dose of
Mhm.
steroids, which is a very strong medication, and
Definitely.
it has its side effects. So first and foremost, given his antics, his mannerism, the way he speaks and deals with his whatever criticism he's faced with, our prime minister, and also given the public demonstration that we saw in Darbar a couple of days back. So all those come mind. We should have a serious examination of his health. Is he fit to become stay a prime minister or not? That's it,
Mhm.
because of course his health has improved after going
Definitely.
that surgery, but
Yeah, he
again
has
he has a
improved all that
strong
energy.
growth, yeah, steroids and all that.
Mhm.
So independent team of doctors, physicians should actually examine whether he's fit to stay and continue as a prime minister.
Yeah, we have heard instances, Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson. He was like, this medal was scrapped, I think,
Ben
because
Johnson,
of using that some kind of
steroids,
steroid
banned
to just
substances,
win the
banned
competition,
substances.
wasn't it? So, like,
Yes,
uh, what I wonder is like all those civil servants, journalists, doctors, all these people, all these professionals have to just pass certain tests. They have to be medically, physically, mentally fit to just carry on with their profession. But when it comes to governing the country, when it comes to ruling the country, no such rule applies. That's a wonder of wonders for me as well. Do you mean to say that Nepal's like uh, the senior political leadership should hang their boots because they are in their 80s, most of them, and that is not the time
late 70s and 80s.
when you start to rule, when you continue to rule. That is the time when you hang your boots. That is when you quit public life, isn't it?
Of course, not only that, I mean, like you can be 70 or 75, you can still be fit and,
Yeah.
alive and kicking and all that. But not only that, not only the factor that the current age of our leaders, but like when you consider our leaders have been at the helm of affairs, be it
Yeah.
Sherbar Deuba or KP Oli or even Pushpa Kamal Dal. They've been in party leadership or, government leadership since 20, 30, 35 years now.
Definitely.
So it's like a musical chair, it's
Mhm.
like a musical chair. They're sharing the post of uh, prime minister between three people or four people, So it's
Yeah.
like a musical chair, and they have nothing new to deliver. And the country, the economy, the politics, inclusion, peace and harmony, our international relations, everything has deteriorated. It has gone bad to worse. So it's high
Uh-huh.
time they gave way, for new. They may pave way for new leadership, new energy, new thinking. So
Definitely.
because uh, it's very sorry state. If you look at the national debt, uh,
Mhm.
as of now, like when a child is born in our country, the child is born with 90,000 rupees of debt,
Yeah.
at birth.
Mhm.
Oh, if you consider that we like 24.5 trillion is the national, debt we are in now.
Mhm.
And like there are 2,600 people, they're living the country on a daily
Below
basis.
the
Youth
poverty
are
line.
going abroad either for
Mhm. Yeah.
work, employment, or for higher studies, and meaning
Mhm.
they are not coming back. You can look into any factor, whether it's economy, whether it's social justice, harmony, religious freedom, uh, anything. You can take note of the respect our passport commands. It's one of the
Mhm.
least respected passport across the
Definitely.
world. So any factor you look into, our country, our system, is going from bad to worse. Economy. If you look at the corruption index, we are one of the most corrupt countries in the world. So, so the
Mhm.
present leadership, these leaders have to make way for the new. and we have to change the system. We have to change the people who's calling the shots, who are in the power now. It's high time we did that.
No, it's like, as you said, the age alone may not be a determining factor when it comes to ruling the country. You can rule the country in your 70s also if you are fit, mentally, physically fit. But then there has to be like some term limitation, no? Like you rule the
Mm.
country for, say, 2 terms. You get that ample opportunity to show your worth during that time, to prove your like metal, if you will. To you can do all you can during, say, your 2 or 3 terms, but our leaders, they are competing to just outdo each other when it comes to serving as minister for, say, sixth or seventh or eighth terms. That is not done, isn't it? That is not at all acceptable in a democracy, or is it? You
When
don't become
Sarabadu
a
Deva
lifelong
became,
prime minister.
yeah, yeah,
There has to be some limit
when
when it comes to terms.
Sarabadu Deva became the prime minister for the first time around,
Hmm.
there was the U.S. had Bill Clinton as the president, so he served 2 terms. Then
Hmm.
they had George W. Bush serving the presidency for 2 terms.
Hmm.
Then there was Barack Obama. He served 2 terms. Then came Trump. Then we had
Biden,
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Biden.
Yeah.
Then again we have Trump now, and we have now Deva. He's prime minister in waiting.
Yeah,
Same
definitely. He
guy,
will be
same
just
person.
starting his seventh term, I think, in maybe
He's looking
a
towards
year
that.
or so, two
So
years. Yeah.
it's a very raw deal for the people and the country and the democracy. No wonder we are deteriorating every day. People are leaving the country in hordes.
And
There's no
still, we
future.
are a
People are
proud democracy,
disenchanted.
aren't we?
No, we are not a democracy, like I stated earlier.
A pseudo
We are told we
democracy,
are a
maybe.
democracy. We are told we are a democracy. We are not a
Uh-huh.
democracy. We are not a functioning democracy. We don't have a electoral system that is very accountable, very judicious. We there's a question raised over a judiciary, functioning of the judiciary. There's no checks and balances are questioned. Even if you look at the constitutional provision, we have the executive, we have the judiciary, and we have the uh,
Legislative.
legislative. They all coming together. They come together in what you call that constitutional council, and they actually distribute the shares. Commissions. Constitutional commissions position the share among themselves. Like
Yeah.
you go on a hunt and
Mhm. Is it a
you like
spoil
to share the
system?
prize.
Is it the
So the
is it some kind of a spoiled system, or it's worse than that?
No, there's no checks and balances. Even like I said, there's a provision in the constitution which brings together 3 organs of the state, including the opposition. The deputy speaker, the leader of the opposition, the chief executive, uh, chief justice. All of them sit together, come together in constitutional council,
Hmm.
and they make appointments into commissions, human rights commission, uh, CIA, and whatnot.
Hmm.
So that shows there's no checks and balances. There's no democratic checks and balances, even in the constitution. So
No
how can we
separation of
expect
powers, no check
our
and
democracy?
balances.
Exactly, there's no checks, there's no separation of power, there's no checks and balances.
All
So
lines are
constitution
blurred.
is fundamental. There's a fundamental flaw in the constitution which has to be amended. There are
Hmm.
many flaws like that. There are many
So,
flaws like that. I'm just citing one.
you are talking about that fundamental flaw, but their agenda is not, are they like, they were talking about a constitutional amendment, and that was the supposed reason behind this government. Do you think
they
it's
they
on their
wanted they
agenda?
wanted to everything. You talked about the UML protest last week, couple of days
Mhm.
back. That was actually focused on them staying in power. to tell the people and the country that will not be ousted out of power. We'll stay in power. Nothing can move us out of the power government seat. That was the
Mhm.
basic message Oli wanted to give to the people. So everything revolves around the power, the seat. It's like a very bad game that uh, it begins with a basic thinking.
Mhm.
Uh, the, so everything what they do, all these activities, what they do is to stay in power, continue the time in the government. So everything is focused on that. They're not uh, really, they don't really care about the economy, the people, their livelihood. Hospitals, healthcare. They don't care. They can even provide, the basic uh, uh, medicines such as cetamol. They
Mhm.
can even provide textbooks to the students on time. So and then they talk of taking the country to a socialist, system of governance, and you know. So it's like
Banana
we are
Republic,
our
I
government, our
think.
leaders, basically they have lost their way, like I stated.
Uh-huh. So even if the UML wanted to hit the streets, uh, though it's a ruling party, uh, things could have been a bit okay if the prime minister had not addressed that program, don't you think? Okay, you hit the
No,
streets.
no,
It's
the
not
party
okay for
party
the
is
ruling party to hit the streets. That is not the norm. That is not, I think, ethical. But even if it were to hit the streets, the prime minister should not have been there because he has so many avenues to clarify his stance, to just come clean on certain controversies.
no, he has all the government machineries, and he have various means. He can talk, speak his views in the parliament. He can have a direct message to the people in the country. He can have his
Definitely.
minister. Uh, he can make statements. In a televised, or
Yeah,
anything.
he can
They
come
can hold
clean
press
in
conferences.
whatever way he wants.
So it's very unethical, and it appears, no, in fact it is so. They don't even understand the very basics of democracy, how they should function and all.